Hi, my name is Charlo, and this is a tutorial on how to make a basic song in FL Studio, or at least how I go about doing it. So, if you're watching this, I hope that you kind of know how FL Studio works. You know what the playlist is or timeline, you know what the channel rack is, you at least kind of know what the mixer is, and you know what the piano roll is. Like, you should know the very basics on how to use all of these things and access them. Pro tip, if you're just starting out, you should really learn the keyboard shortcuts for all of them. I can kind of be bad and forget them sometimes, but it makes things go a lot faster when you're trying to produce as efficiently as possible. And I think one of the coolest things as a songwriter is trying to be able to produce not necessarily as fast as possible, but as efficiently as possible. So yeah, I can kind of just get right into it. So I actually have a default project file. This is just a blank project file, but I can go over really quick what that looks like. And then we can kind of go from there because I assume you don't have a default project file. I know there are different templates that come with FL, but I honestly don't really use them. I have a project file for just any new song, and then I have one just for a vocal project. So what I recommend you do when you start out, if you are doing that, is you don't have to really color anything, but I would just name some of the mixer tracks, and I would make about 10. So we could have one for kick drum, we could have one for snare. I usually like doing a second one for clap as well, just in case. Maybe a hi-hat, let's just say, and then we don't really need to have anything beyond that, to be fully honest. We could do an FX, mainly because I've seen a lot of impacts, for instance, have a lot of low end that you might not want. So you can do a low pass on that. And then you can just go from there. So you can do however many synths. I just highly recommend having a bass synth mixer. And then that should be pretty much it. But I like to keep all my pads, all my leads, or most of them on the same mixer track. I say that because if you are adding a drum to the project file, you could probably just put any snare on the snare or clap mixer track. You don't have to make a new mixer track for it. I said that because I have a project that's not, it's a little complex, but it has like 80 mixer tracks being used because I would just add something to the track and then would put it on the mixer track. You don't need every single hi-hat to have something on the mixer track. And you might think, okay, well, what if I want to put effects on it, or what if I want to control the volume in a good way, or the panning? There's better ways to do that. We can kind of get into that. So I will keep everything on this blank file just to be really safe with it, but I would highly recommend going in and sorting things. The way I do it is I have about 5 tracks for samples, and then I do my snare and everything like that with the FX. I even have a track just for side chaining, just like a simple side chain, and then also tracks for then the kick and then the bass, and then I have all the other synth tracks. And the synths I put all going into a bus. Now, if you use a different DAW, you probably know what a bus is, but if you use FL, you probably don't. It's basically where you route everything to one track. So if I want to do synth bus, let's say I just do that, and then let's say all my other synths are here. So I'll just change one of them, but I won't waste your time and go through and change all of them. You do this, and then you right click down here and then do route to this track only. So if I have something routed to any of these, it'll go through this bus. And the reason you'd want that is because I have a lot of songs where I have a low pass filter over a section, or a bit crush just on one section, or a reverb just to make the entire song sound different in that section. And it's really annoying to put that stuff on the master, because then if you put your vocals back into this track or your drums, you probably don't want it affecting the master. You want it just to do the synth, or if you want to cut out the synth just on one small section for an impact, then you kind of want all of that together. So if you're just starting out, you don't really have to do this stuff, but I do really recommend making the very basic mixer tracks, because it just saves you so much time with mixing down the line. And I think mixing is arguably the least important of making music until you start making actual like albums worth of music. But it is pretty easy to tell when someone's just starting out with mixing. The only other, I can get more into mixing later, but I would just recommend oftentimes the number one way to make your mixes sound way cleaner is just in the instrumentation, so not adding too much to a track, but usually it's to take whatever synths you add, and if there is a really heavy bass, I would highly recommend adding a low end filter, basically. So not many people know this, but FL has an EQ down here, and it's a lot less intensive than using the like main parametric EQ2. I would also recommend you learn how to use this, and I'll go into that. But just do this. This is basically the low end, the mid, and the high end on your track. You can kind of ignore these controls. We can just do this. I would just go like this. Anything below, see how it says hertz? Usually a lot of people say more of like 120 hertz, but honestly I would say more like 180-ish hertz. This is all pretty much bass or sub bass. You want your bass to just take up all of that, at least in most dance music. So I would just recommend most of, but not all of your synths doing something like this. That will clean up your mix so much. I think on some of your items too, just cutting out things like the mid and everything, we can get into that. But a lot of the way to having clean mixing is just cutting out frequencies that you don't need. But anyways, that's just the precursor for this. You don't really have to get into all of that right now, but I will get into it later. But so let's start out by making our song. So what I highly recommend you do is find some plugins that you like. There's some good free ones, like Vital is really good. What I almost always start with is the pianos from Labs. They have one that's really popular called Soft Piano, but they have a whole bunch of other really good ones. So if I go in here, and you have to download all of them separately, so I'm not going to go over that in here, but just so you know. So I think it is Tape Piano. Yeah. So this one is really good and just the most like basic sounding piano, and it has a few extra things you can add to it, like reverb. I usually turn up the volume. So I'm gonna use that, but I'm also going to I'll use this for the chords, but I also do like FL keys. I've seen videos where people say don't use FL keys because it sounds cheap. It does, but for dance music, sometimes you kind of need that cheap dance piano sound. So anyways, so in the piano roll, let's kind of just start writing chords. I usually go about it by writing the chords, writing a melody if applicable. Sometimes I wait for that. Then trying to write some type of bass line, then writing the drums. You can do it in whatever order you want. You can start out with a sample and build it off of that. I would just recommend sitting down and trying to figure out what you want the song to sound like. So if you want to do something really dancey, then you can write chords that are more cheery, or maybe you want to do something sad dancey, so you can make it sad, or something really slow. So I'm going to keep it around 130 just because, I don't know, good dance music, and then we can change that later for the tempo. But let's just start writing something that's kind of simple. So I'm also going to go to, in the piano roll, view and then scale highlighting, and then do automatic. I highly recommend that, so you're writing stuff in scale. Sometimes the scale highlighting isn't super accurate for some keys, but I'm just gonna do a normal minor chord. So let's do G minor, and we can change that later as well, but just like I'm randomly selecting. So if I want to do a minor chord, I assume you already know how to write chords. So we start it like that. So that's a 1, and then maybe let's keep it really simple and go to a 4. Here, I'll move that down an octave. And we can do a 5 next, maybe. I'll actually, let's make this a sus chord. I'll try that. It kind of doesn't really resolve. It kind of just keeps going. So I do like this. Let's write another one. I would actually recommend sometimes you can fix the chords so they sound better, but sometimes I will just write a ton of different chords. So I'll do like 4 or 5, and then maybe I end up using all of them. I would recommend if you're writing a song that's not just a beat where you want to have a chorus and a bridge and everything, I would write at least 2 chord progressions. So let's add another pattern. It doesn't really have to be labeled. I usually color things, but you really don't have to. So yeah, let's go back in here. So we were doing G minor. Okay, so I'll do another 1 chord here, and then, so we did 1, 4, 5, 4 with sus4, or I think that was whatever it's called. You know what I mean. So let's do, maybe like, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, let's go 6 maybe. Would that be stupid? And something I always, when I would try out, I would go from like a 1 to a 6 or whatever and go up. I would actually recommend just going down an octave here. It usually sounds a bit better. See, there's an overlap. And let's change this to a sus. Ooh, that sounds really sad. That is a little bit of a jump, but let's try to hear it out. Let's maybe do a 3, 4. Let's do a 5. And I'll go down there. I could also do an inversion where I do something like this. So let's just try that. Okay, I think that sounds pretty all right. If you're wondering, so I pretty much would just write a chord and then would invert one of these going down. This I think is a, I don't know what number that is, but I just moved this down. That's called a, I'm honestly blanking on the name, but what I would recommend doing is just walking through this a bit more. Let's do one more. So I would just write the 1. You don't have to have the 1 in the chord progression technically, but I would just recommend it if you're just doing like dance music or something really simple. You could also change this so it's like there, and then the next one is shorter. I'm just keeping it really simple for this tutorial. So take this, and then you're like, okay, well, I don't want it to change too much. Let's make it a sus chord. So do 1 down, or make it that down 1. I feel like it needs to go up a bit more. Okay, that's out of key, sorry. So the good and bad thing about a chord progression like this really resolves. It starts at the 1, then it kind of continues. This is kind of pulling a little bit. This feels super incomplete. This 6, I believe, feels, or is that a 2 inverted? Something like that, I don't know. It feels, you can feel it's really incomplete, and then this resolves it. So the issue though is that if you're looping this, sometimes that feels a little tiring because you're starting something and then finishing it, starting something, finishing over and over and over again. When sometimes the best ones will actually be resolved by the original chord, if that makes sense. So I'm wondering if I can change this. That sounds a bit better. I think that I'm just going to keep this as an example. And then let's go back and listen to this one. So I like this. I could even take this out and just do this. So I think that sounds really awesome, actually. And I'm actually going to move this up. Actually, I'm going to add a, I believe it's called an 11th. I'm totally botching this. I'm sorry. I said you need to know music theory, but... That sounds cool. Then we don't really have to move these up, but sometimes just moving up the middle makes it sound a little better. You can add dissonance with this, like so the reason I think I did a sharp here is it had a lot of dissonance with this chord. You can kind of just hear it, so that kind of goes together a bit better. So anyways, I'm gonna go with this. I think this sounds cool. And then I'm gonna add FL keys to this, and maybe we can do a really quick melody. I'm probably taking forever on time for this, but let's just assume I'm not. So anyways, so something you want to avoid but sounds the best is doing the what's called the supertonic, which is the second. Actually that sounds kind of bad on that, but like, so that sounds like really good, but it's quite basic. So there's two ways to write melodies, in my opinion, or probably a bunch, but one of the easiest ways is to write the rhythm of the chord and then go from there. So this is way too basic, but we could do like a triplet pattern. We could do something else. But if you look at most pop songs, they're all very basic. They're like one chord or one key over and over again. So I'm going to just try to write the rhythm, and I'm going to use the root note. The other way of doing it is trying to write a melody and seeing what works and what doesn't, and then changing the rhythm of it. But let's write something super simple. So... Okay, let's pretend that's fine. A lot of times you can copy this over too, but let's, before we do that, start actually writing the melody. So I'm kind of gonna, to make something really simple, I would just go off of what's in the chord. So a lot of times people will actually just write melodies by going like this, like they'll just follow the ghost notes. That's pretty cool, but let's try to make it a little bit better than that. So we can do, that's an A sharp. And then D. So... Ooh, see, that's already something. So again, I'm pretty much just following this, but so, I mean, the only way to write melodies is you make stuff go up or down or stay the same. That's literally it. And you don't want to jump too much. So a lot of people, when they start out, they write these crazy melodies that go from like G to like, I don't know, something up here. You want to make it really simple. I mean, go look at, go look at a Chapel Roan song or something off of Brat. Pretty much all the melodies are very simple. Very, very, very simple, but with a cool rhythm. So... this actually? Wait, okay, cool. Okay. So, potential bad advice, but probably the easiest way to actually write a catchy melody is to follow. So you'll probably notice jumping from the one note to the one below it. That's two semitones, versus if you jump from the 2 to the 3, it's only 1. That sounds really satisfying when you have if you have a super basic melody that goes like that, and then so see how it's unresolved here, and then if you it feels so resolved when it hits the 3 there. I just recommend experimenting with that. I wouldn't fully rely on this, but that's a lot of the times how I kind of feel out a melody. And see, the rhythm here is very it's varied. It's a little more complex than we might want in the long run, but I think it sounds really catchy. So here's an example really quick of what I would say like a simple melody sounds like. So So a lot of music theory with melodies is literally like, okay, so you have this note. Where do we go from here? Okay, well, you go up. What would be satisfying after that? Okay, go down. And this sets up the resolution later. See, when it hits here, you're like, oh, what's coming next? Sorry, I think my mic is clipping. See, that kind of resolves there. And then oh, what's coming next after that? You can kind of feel it. And then it resolves. And then it loops. Again, sometimes you want something even more simple than this. So then we can literally just do like, oh, sorry. It actually intersects with this one. You can hear the dissonance there, but that's just an example. I'm actually going to delete this one, but sometimes you want something really simple. Writing leads is completely different too, something where it's not just like a pluck or note hit, where you want to have something sustained for a while. That's a whole nother thing. So anyways, so we wrote 2 melodies. Let's keep up with the first one. I'm going to write a dance song, and then I'm going to write more of a like trap beat. So we have the piano and we have the melody. So okay, cool. What I recommend doing is, so keep this pattern. You're going to want these chords later when you're copy pasting them. You could make them sound more realistic and, edit them or do whatever. I just like keeping these as basic as possible. So let's do a new pattern, and I will color code it because why not? And then let's keep things really simple this time. I'm actually going to primarily use Vital, which is a free synth. It's like Serum, but free. And it's also horribly optimized. I would highly recommend getting Serum if you can. I usually use Serum, Spire, sometimes Massive, the original version. That one is pretty easy to find. And then also Vital, and then Synplant 2 I've been using a lot, and Phase Plant as well. I haven't really dived into that one as much, but I would say Spire and Serum are my 2 go-tos, along with like Labs Piano and stuff, but Vital is really good, and maybe we can do some super simple sound design as well. But so when you start out with Vital, you have, I would recommend watching a tutorial for that somewhere else, but so you just have the saw preset. So I'll just put the chords on here. Oh, oops. Copy the chords, go over here. That sounds awesome. So I have presets. I would probably like to try to make some of my own, even though that's kind of out of the scope of this tutorial, but maybe you'll learn something. So I also don't usually use Vital too much, so let's just like, there's a bit of a click, so I'll add an attack. I think this actually sounds pretty cool. I'll add some reverb to it. Reverb actually sounds bad. Actually, let's do this and let's layer it with that Labs piano. I'm also going to add some bass to the piano, so I'm going to take this bottom thing and move it down one, and I'm going to make it slightly quieter. Okay, cool. So I'm going to put the piano on its own mixer track, so I'll put it on synth 1. I'll do the chords here. I'll do that on a different one. So now we have 2. What I would recommend doing is play around with reverb. I recommend reverb. I'm going to use Supermassive Valhalla or Valhalla Supermassive. It's free. It's a free reverb. So there's a ton of presets you can play around with. I would recommend doing that. It's fun, but just really basic. I'm going to turn the low cut high up so it's not interfering with any bass. I'm going to turn the EQ down. I'm going to turn the delay down. So adding too much reverb is a classic producer problem, and a lot of people do it. Turn the delay up or the warp up, because I think you can kind of hear when there's a low warp on here. And let's hear how this sounds just isolated. Awesome. I think that sounds awesome. I think reverb and piano sound really good together. I'm also going to add OTT, a free compressor plugin, turn that depth all the way down to like 20. Just makes it sound a little bit louder. That's a whole nother thing you should look into, like compression. I'm also, I do 1 or 2 of these on pretty much everything. Then also go to EQ2. If you have the computer that can handle it, I would recommend putting this on almost every mixer track. This is your most important VST. If you could have one VST, you would use this one. Really quick explanation. This is your, I don't even know what it's called, just like all of the frequencies. So you can see the piano has a good amount of bass, and it's labeled up here for you. So there's the sub bass, the low mid, the mid, high mid, and then the treble. You probably have heard of what treble and bass are, so you have an idea. But so if I take this and I remove the high end completely, so this controls if you want more high end, low, or less high end. Same with low end, so less, more. It's basically like a levels decider. There's just 7 of these notches, which is really confusing for a lot of people. But so if we take down the high end, see, so now it's just bass. And doing that actually sounds really cool for sound design stuff. We can raise the high end. See how it sounds a lot more crispy. Low the bass. Sounds a lot less full, but sounds more dancey. And then add to the bass. So what I recommend doing for stuff like this, we're probably going to add a bass onto this. I would just recommend turning that bass down a little bit, probably around here. You can also right click this and go to the high pass and change this to steep. You can cut out some of that low frequency. You don't have to do this, let's be real, but I just like doing that. So it makes it sound a little less bassy, but it'll make the mixing a lot cleaner. But there also isn't a whole bunch of bass, so we'll just keep it like there. So that piano sounds awesome. Let's do this. Back to these chords. Let's add a phaser on it. I also turn the low end down. I think the reverb on here didn't sound great, so I'm gonna add another Supermassive on here, and I just need to make sure, hopefully my levels are fine. Sorry for the DIY setup here. Yeah, so I'll do like this. And then I'll just take out the low end. So I think this sounds awesome. What if we distort it? Cool. Sounds awesome, I think. Oops. Okay, let's write a bass line. And I'm going to do this in Vital. You can do this with any synth. So I'm going to turn the pitch. Whoa, I didn't know it could go down that much. Pitch down a little bit, and then I'll just do maybe a saw for this. And I'm going to put it on my bass mixer track. I'm also going to add a limiter so we can compress it. Compressing it, I can kind of show you what it means, but basically kind of just makes it louder. So let's do a really simple bass line at first. Actually, let's do more simple. So I'm just going to follow the root note here. So basically just the note at the bottom. So that sounds cool, but let's make it more dancey. I want the song to be kind of dancey. So I'll do that, and then I'm kind of doing this in not super efficient way, but do that one. And let's make it a square wave. I really like square wave basses. That kind of sounds not great, actually. So, and one of the biggest parts of making music is realizing when something doesn't sound that great. So I'm actually gonna take this limiter. So you see, this is the level. This is how loud that bass is. If you turn up the gain, it becomes really loud, but then it starts limiting it. So it's called upward compression when you do that. So I'm gonna limit it. I'm also gonna distort it before the limiter. I don't love how that sounds though. That sounds crazy. Let's bust out the EQ. Okay, I think this will just sound better when we have a lot more stuff in it. But so I'm just taking the EQ, I'm boosting the bass, not the sub, but the bass, and cutting a lot of that mid. Sounds a bit better. So comparison. And then so let's add that melody in, and then we can do drums, and then we're kind of done. Hopefully this isn't running like so over time. Oh well, it doesn't matter. So let's do another Vital synth, and then we'll do the first melody. So I'm just copy pasting that and then going back to the actual song. So that sounds cool. Let's do a pluck. So I'm just gonna do like that. So that sounds cool. So I basically just made if you want to impress your friends doing sound design, I literally just made the basic shapes. I took this and made the pluck go down, or sorry, the sustain. So instead of holding that note, it like plucks it. And you can just drag that. That's literally all you do. And you can do this in Serum. You can do anything. You probably see these envelopes in every single synth. The effects, I added a compressor to kind of make it sound a bit louder and crunchier. I added a delay. You probably know what delay is. Distortion after the delay makes it sound really cool. Here, I'll turn this up to ping pong. Equalizer just to take out that low end or have less of it. And then added some reverb to it. That's pretty much all there is to it. And then that adds a cool stereo space to it that you can probably hear. So let's put that on a mixer track. I'll do it on a different one because these are all pretty much fully separate things. I'm going to make sure to fully cut that low end out. And then I'm going to add a bit crusher to it. I'm trying to think of the best way to bit crush. There is a bit crush in Vital that I can use actually. So bit crush. I think that sounds terrible actually. So I'm actually using a free plugin put you on from Kilohertz called Kilohertz Bit Crush. They have a ton of free plugins. They're all really good. They also make phase plant So I'll turn the mix down. So that's cool. So let's duplicate this. So let's take the MIDI and copy it and then clone that vital. I put it on the same mixer track, and let's just make something completely different. So initialize a preset, and then let's do a square maybe. So let's actually add that. So I just put it an octave higher to differentiate it. Sounds terrible right now, but let's add a bit of chorus, a bit of compression, a bit of delay maybe. EQ, let's make it more of a pluck, not fully. Let's commit to the bit crushing. So add some reverb. And let's just do something crazy, like add some white noise. And then maybe a filter. You can kind of tell I'm kind of just making it up on the spot. So I think that sounds awesome. I think the last thing we need other than drums is a lead. So basic shapes, let's do. Let's try this. So let's do it lower. So notice how most of these notes are pretty high up. Let's literally just follow one of these, but then make the it sound a little different. So I'm just following that chord progression. That sounds awesome. So let's. So I just added some chorus, and that gives kind of some width to it. Added a distortion because you got to distort everything, because why not? And then I cut out the low end as per usual. So this is also another thing. So I'll put this on 14. I'll make sure to fully cut out that low end. Even though, see how it's kind of already cut off. There's nothing over here. I'm just going to do it anyways to make it really clean. I'm going to add a Fruity Reverb 2 and turn up the low cut like that, and then turn this up, and then turn the whole thing down. See how this kind of exists in the background? This is kind of begging for your attention, but this is just supplementary. And I'll turn it down a bit. So I'm gonna add a gross beat to this as well. I usually don't use gross beat. I use a free plugin called STFU. It's really good for sidechaining. Sidechaining is probably one of the most important things you can learn how to do. But I'm just gonna do this. See how it adds a bit of rhythm to it? I think it sounds awesome. I love how this sounds. So I think the one thing that this is actually missing is a little bit more of that low end. So if I go over to the master and add an EQ. So look, there's the bass taking up this. You have the leads and everything taking up here. But there's not much here. There's not much in that low mid section. So let's just add another, we could add another synth. Yeah, let's do that. I was gonna add another piano, but let's add another synth. And I'm doing this all in the same pattern because I don't really care, but sometimes I do new patterns for stuff. I can explain that a little bit better later. So I might just steal this, cut out some of that high end, and then I'll add a bit of an attack to it. Attack just means how long it takes to come in. So that's probably good. And then I'll turn the release completely off so it stops playing whenever I stop holding a note, because otherwise it'll go. I actually kind of like that, so I'll turn that up a little bit. Sorry, I'm just lying completely. So I'll do 15 on here because it is a completely different thing. And then I'll just go like this probably. So see how the saw kind of blends in with everything else? Let's turn this to... That sounds cool. I think it's... Let's make sure it's not interfering with the bass, so add an EQ. Let's do 160 because it's pretty low, and then cut out some of that high. And let's distort it, because obviously. And then let's also... Actually, this is a good teaching moment. So I like this gross beat with the sidechain. Go here. You can also move something by scrolling up and down if you didn't know that on here. And this, oh, by the way, this order matters. I didn't know that for like 6 months after producing, but this order completely matters. So it'll do reverb first, then EQ, then gross beat here. You always want your sidechain to be last. If it's not last, you're probably doing it wrong because you want it to actually duck the volume. So go here and click, and then do save preset as, click and hold, and drag it to a different mixer track, and it'll copy that gross beat over. So that sounds cool. Obviously, a lot of these sounds are pretty basic, to be honest, because I made them in 5 seconds. But what I recommend doing is building a song like this and then switching them out for presets you like. I would recommend that. Another pro tip is, see this piano here? Command A if you're on Mac, and then I think it's Option R will randomize. I think it's Control R on Windows. You can randomize the velocity and the panning. I would recommend randomizing the velocity if you're doing piano. Just because it makes it sound a little bit more natural. You could also strum this. So go here. There's a whole bunch of things you can do. So you can chop something, mix the notes different. I would just play around with this when you're kind of stuck making a song. I'm going to strum this and then have these settings. So see how it sounds like someone's actually playing the piano. So I think that sounds awesome. And then, so let's put some drums down. Sidechaining is also really important for like a bass, but this bass is pretty off note for where the kick would be, so we can kind of ignore that. But if you have a kick and a bass hitting at the same time, you're going to look up how to sidechain something. But I don't want to cover that today. So FL comes with a ton of free drums that are all pretty good. For the most part, I kind of use all of these. I think the kicks are kind of not great, but everything else is pretty good. So drums is decent. Drums mode audio is even better, but let's just do the normal drums. Let's first add a snare. I like this one, kind of dancey. So you could put a drum. If you want it to be slower, you could put it here, but I recommend doing it like this. That sounds cool. That adds a lot of momentum to the song. See, these kicks all kind of suck. This one's punchy, so I'll add this. And then I'm actually going to take this because it's kind of long. I'm going to shorten it. Oh, not like that. Sorry. Make sure this is unselected. Shorten it, and also hold Option or Alt, depending on what you're on. And you can have free reign where it's not stuck on the grid. I'm going to shorten it to be like that long, and then I'm going to shorten this. See, that sounds pretty good. So it's a dancey track, so we're going to have it hit 4 on the floor. So there's no side chaining, and you can tell because the bass really interferes with this, but I don't really feel like going into that. So I think this sounds cool though. So I'm just going to copy this loop to here, and then I'm going to add hi-hats. You can also take out some of this stuff. I don't know, but this is just the normal, like you hear this pattern in like Crystal Castles' music a lot, just as an example, but pretty much all like dance or house music. It's just the 4 on the floor with the kick there, or sorry, with the snare there or clap there. So I'll add hats. Some of these are actually kind of not amazing. Actually, this one's okay. So there's a few different ways we can add drums. We can actually add them onto the timeline, and I think that that's really useful, but I'm just going to do it on the playlist here because I have more control over it. So this is more of like an open hat, OH, open hat. So what I recommend for dance music is put it on the offbeat like this, so sound like this. See, that adds a ton of movement, and I think that sounds really awesome. I'm also going to just take off a bit of the tail there. I think it sounds cool. So what I recommend is we do that. These are all kind of open hats. This is like a more standard hat. You can make this hit on every on beat. And then I recommend don't just copy the same pattern over and over again. For dance music, it doesn't really matter too much, but I would just throw in a little bit of variation. So like having this hit like that there. There, perfect. If you listen to something like Crystal Castles, they kind of do something where it goes like this. Yeah, so, and because this has that weird kick pattern, I'm actually gonna, I'm gonna just change it to be like that on this part. So, and then if you want to have better mixing, note the panning of everything. Do not, listen, do not pan your kick. Do not. Just don't. You can pan your hi-hats. So I sometimes like making the super quick hi-hat go to like the left and then maybe the open hat to the right. Not all the way, but like to the right. I also think that the percussion, I think that the order of how loud your song should be, personally, I think the kick should be the loudest. Snare sometimes if you're doing like dubstep or something, but I think the kick should be the loudest. I think your bass should be slightly quieter than the kick. Really depends, but usually the kick sounds a bit better when it's a bit louder. And then the hi-hats can be quieter, but in this I kind of like it. So let's keep the open hat loud, and then I'll turn this one down. And note, so whenever you click on a sample, you have pan, volume, pitch, all of this stuff. There's reverb in here. No one knows about this. No one uses this, but you're going to want to, if you have a hi-hat, see how there's like a mixer track for the hi-hat? You don't really need to use any of that because these are already pre-made sounds that don't really need like the low end cut off unless you're crazy like me, but you don't have to do that. So I recommend just taking this and then, I want the open hat to be quieter, just edit it on here, or you want it louder, edit it on here. You can even clip it on here, or like, so if you go here and do clip and then boost, see, that's loud as hell. And you don't even need to use the mixer. So I would say try not to use the mixer for a lot of these samples when you're starting out. Maybe the kick. I think the kick sometimes you need to like distort it or something, but I think this is fine. I think this sounds great. Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds good. So, okay, so we have the kick and the snare and the hi-hats and everything. That's pretty much it. If you want to add some flavor to this, I would recommend just, let's say this is like I forgot to copy over the hi-hat. Sorry, I keep thinking that there's somebody like in my house and I don't want to pause the recording to check, but anyways, doesn't matter. So if I get murdered, it's recording. So copy this over, and then what you can do is like take out the kick here, and maybe this. Oh my god, I copied it over wrong. Okay, it's like one off. Sorry, so embarrassing. I'll just delete it. So sorry, I'm worried about not getting murdered. So okay. And then if you want to just use the same, you'd probably change a little bit of this, but take this snare, put it here instead of here, put it there, and then just do that. And then let's just make like a really simple. Okay, that is exactly what we want. So see how this is slower and it kind of acts as like like an after chorus, or I don't know what the term would be. I think that sounds really cool. So you can copy that over. And then we can kind of make a new hi-hat pattern. I recommend using the same hi-hats, but sometimes you can swap them out or swap out the snare or something. Maybe you want a clap here instead. I forgot there's no claps on here. Yeah, that sounds cool. So cool. I also recommend layering. Yeah, you don't really need to do it there, but I recommend layering. Do not layer kicks. You can, but I don't recommend it. Layer hi-hats, layer snares, layer claps. See, that's a weird pattern, so we can go and do that. I'm just freestyling all of this, but I would recommend like make the song and then see if you need to change anything. But yeah, I think that sounds awesome. Now, so the final step to this before we make the trap beat, even though I'm probably like going over on this, I don't know how much time I've spent on this. If you have everything in one channel and you go, oh, okay, now there's, or one pattern, what if you want to cut out the bass on one section? I would recommend clicking this and then do, oh wait, sorry, right click here and then split by channel. I actually usually don't do this. I usually try to make them all on separate channels or separate patterns in the first place, but split by channel. Now pretty much everything is on its own thing. So like the bass, so you can go, oh, I like this, but I don't want the bass in the beginning. Take that out. Isn't that cool? Or I want to shorten this. Yeah, so I think that's really cool. Add some tension. You can play around with adding effects and stuff, like cool life hack, put like a snare, reverse it. I would recommend cutting out the low end from this too, but who cares in this moment? Put it like that, maybe stretch it out a little bit as you do. Lower the volume, raise the pitch, and then add like this curve here to make it quiet going into loud. Sounds cool, right? It acts as a riser. I would also recommend adding cymbals. See, these all kind of sound terrible, but you'll probably have sample packs that you can pull from. See, that sounds cool. So add this to like, I don't know, every bit or something. I recommend checking out, if you want to make dance music, check out like Snow Strippers. They do a lot with their drums and they're all really simple. You can add more hi-hats and stuff. So anyways, that's pretty much how to make dance music. I'm going to try as fast as I can to take what we made and make a trap beat with it. So let's get into it. So we have the chords and I'm just going to try my best to go fast with this. So we have piano. Let's just make it all on here. So we have piano. Let's do... Cool, awesome. Okay, and then... So I have the chords. I'm just gonna try to make a really simple melody, like. So I'm actually just gonna copy this over. Oops, no, it's supposed to be like that. Okay. And if you want a super easy melody, just do the this up down. It's like too simple. Sometimes it doesn't sound good and it's kind of elementary, but I think that's cool. So actually, because of the side chain, I might not use this one. I'll do this here. Oh, it's side chain too. Oh my gosh. Okay. god, what did I press? Sorry. I'll do F. Oh, it was F. Okay, so this sounds cool, but let's take this FL keys and just add a ton of reverb to it. So I'll do something I haven't used yet. Add that low end or low pass or whatever it's called. And then do tons of reverb. This isn't enough. Let's do supermassive. And try to make things a bit offbeat. So if you just do like, wait, that sounds fire. I would just add a bit of variation. Actually, I don't know. I completely take it back. Let's make it simple. I'm actually going to add this on its own separate thing, so it'll only come in at certain sections. Yeah, and let's make it a little bit more like that. Okay, so we have new beat. Let's just ignore everything. Let's just go over here. Okay, so I'm gonna start the beat here. Also, I do Command and select, I think it's Control on Windows. If you want to add something to this, Command Shift to add it, like to keep this selected and add more. And then Command or Control B to paste it. This can be really tricky because if you do like, if this is like, I don't know, like something like that, and you do Command B, it'll like paste it and it'll fill in this. Kind of annoying, but just so you know. So we need some good drums for this. So to make things easier, let's use the little baby pack. Obviously, I think this is free online. So trap beat, we're gonna want this here. And sorry, it needs to be over here. And I can actually expand this. I probably should have done that forever ago. Add a kick. This is what? Make this way way shorter. And so if you enable this, it like grows or stretches out the sample. Yeah, you don't want that. So disable this if you're trimming off the edges of this. This is cool for sound design though. Like, that sounds cool. Anyways, just so you know. Wait, so actually before we had a kick, I'm so sorry. I'm genuinely so sorry. We have to add an 808. This 808's fine. So add this to the channel rack. Go here. You have to do this. Listen to me. You have to do this. Go, like, click this. Go to the wrench. And then cut self. Do that. Also, if you have other samples or synths, you can do this and add, like, an ARP here and stuff like that. That's, like, for later, but... okay, so add this to the... let's add this to its own track, but I would recommend just adding a little bit of that bass because we hate hearing. So, but the cut self basically means that if you play two notes, it won't play them over each other. You need to do this with an 808. Trust me. Trust me. So anyways, 808s are a little harder than just doing like a simple bass line, but let's just do like a triplet. That's just easy. And I'm following the root note here as we were before. That sounds cool. Sorry, I played that other one. So I'm just gonna put this on its own pattern instead of splitting it because I'm lazy. So bass. actually gonna move this one. See how it kind of accents the bass, or the accents the beat? Like it doesn't hit when the snare hits. You can do that if you want, but so I'm not going to sidechain this. You're going to want to sidechain this if you're actually making a song, but just for quick demonstration, I would recommend making the kick hit at the start of every 808 to start out. But then we can add a few extra ones, like one here. So like that. And then, yeah, I'm following along this bass pattern. So I'm actually, just to make really lazy if you don't want to sidechain, then I'll just cut out the sub bass from the 8. No, that's stupid. Don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, so you can kind of hear that and that are interfering. So you kind of only hear the high end from this. If you can't hear it, then I'm sorry. You kind of just have to train your ears with it. But so that's half the beat, or most of it. Now you got to add hi-hats. So I'll actually show you how to use the channel rack for this. So let's do hi-hats. I usually color code everything, so drums are usually yellow for me. And then add this to the timeline, or sorry, to the channel rack. Cool. Now you have all this, right? And if you don't know how to use this, you should learn how to use it. I don't use it all the time. For hi-hats, I usually do. Everything else, other than synths, I usually don't, because I like putting it on the timeline. But you can do drums entirely in this, and you've probably seen people make beats really fast. They use this because it's faster. It's not always better, but it's faster. So if I go, what I like doing is filling out pretty much all of this so that this space is used. Then right click your sample and then do fill in every 2 steps. Let's just say you could do 4. Here's what 4 sounds like, and then let's actually put this pattern down. Sounds cool, but kind of boring. Let's do every 2. So that sounds awesome. I know there's some producers, like I believe Nick Mira, who produced for Juice WRLD, does this on every track. He literally just does every 2 steps basically. But so let's make it a little bit more varied. So we can do like that. You can also, you're probably good with just doing this, but if you go to the piano roll, it's actually on the piano roll too. So let's make it crazy. So let's say here, take those out and make them, it's pitch dependent. So let's do a triplet. So that sounds really cool. I'll make it louder. So even cooler, you can edit the velocity. So basically how loud something is in here. You probably already know that. Go to pan. You can edit all of, you can edit all of these other things. I usually only do pan and velocity, but if you do pan, you can make it go like super far in one ear. I think that sounds, it's a little jarring, but I think it sounds really cool. Another pro tip is if you want to do one of those like cool hi-hat rolls, expand this. So hold Option or Alt to expand it. So let's do it like that, and then select it, and then do, what is it? Command or Option U, or you can go up here and do chop. And this is the chopper. So ignore literally all of this. Just do the time. Oh, sorry. Also, this should be set to default. And you can chop it. So if we do it, that's a little fast, but like that, it'll sound like this. You can also place these manually, but you don't want to do that. I'll also do like this panning. So it starts out in the middle and then go, let's actually do this. That sounds cool. It goes from your right ear to your left. I think that sounds awesome. Just another way to make beats sound really cool. You can also even edit the pitch of this. So you make it start a bit higher and then it'll go a bit lower. Really cool, right? And that's super, super, super simple. Okay, so and then let's add so these all go into our synth bus. Let's add some reverb, warp all the way up, delay like that. And then I'll just edit these kind of like how I was doing. Do the mix all the way up. So we're just adding some reverb to the synth bus, so it sound like this. Sounds kind of cool. Oh wait. Sounds kind of cool. I'll add more delay to it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna automate this. So at the very end of each loop, it adds a ton of reverb and then it cuts out. So first off, I'm gonna duplicate all of this so we actually have more than one loop. Then I'm gonna make an automation track, and this is really annoying if you don't know what you're doing. But so select a part of the track. So I'll just do this much. If you add an automation track, it'll make it for the entire song, which is really annoying. So select this first, go over here. So usually you would go here and right click and say, create automation clip. Turn this off. That's so if you delete the automation clip later, it won't be on by default, which you would really find annoying. So, and I don't know, I just lock it into having it like here or something. Doesn't really matter. Create automation clip, and this basically automates that reverb. So see how it's off now? And this is a whole nother tutorial, but it's like an automation thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna automate it so the reverb doesn't exist, then it goes up, and then it cuts out immediately. So if I kept this here, it would just be on. See, it's fully on, but if I do that, it turns off, so it sounds like this. I think that sounds cool. I would use a different reverb, but why does it sound like that? It's like, so you'd probably want to have more sounds, and honestly, I think that reverb sounds okay. You'd probably want to do a delay too, or a different plugin, but just add some variation. Gross beat has a whole bunch of stuff like that, but yeah. So here is our finished beat. I forgot to enable the bass. I'm so sorry. Super simple, a lot of things that could be changed, the chord progression. If you want to do simple mastering, go to the master channel and make sure this limiter is pretty filled out. And if you want to, if you're crazy, you could like add more bass or something really stupid. I would recommend not touching the master channel if you're just first starting out. If you want to be really crazy, go to EQ2, select this cut option, keep it like this. If you're crazy, maybe add a little bit of bass. That's how I would do it, like there. And then go to the limiter. I'm gonna turn down the release just a little bit. And then that's good. And then you could export this and put vocals over it. So there's a trap beat. I think I played the dance beat, but I'll do that one more time. Awesome. Yeah, I think that sounds awesome. This just kind of goes to show that sometimes just changing the bass line and the rhythm of things can kind of change the beat. The cool thing is that these could almost be the same song. Like this could be the intro verse, and then this could be the chorus. You could literally just move one of these. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we just basically made a whole song. Arranging is a whole nother aspect where you want to actually sit down and go, okay, do I want to start on a chorus or a verse? Sometimes what people do, or what I like doing, is you can start out by, probably not on the master, but just for the sake of it, you could start out with like a bit crush, and then do like something like that. Like that low sweep. And you would automate that. You can actually automate pretty much anything in FL. So I'd see how that's moving this thing right here. I'd put it up to the default value I want and then right click and then do create automation clip. So I could just do that. I have a song called Because of Me that, oh, I'm doing it this wrong way. Yeah, like that. That does this a lot, but it's super, super common in dance music. So I could just do like this, do it like that, just make it subtle-ish. And then I could also automate this. I said I was done with the song and now I'm not. I'll just turn the big crush off, automation clip, and then make it go, let's make it go like that. And then I'll make it cut out. Yeah, so that just adds a lot of tension before this drop, and then the drums come in and they sound really good. So I recommend just, if I were you, I would make an 8 to 16 bar loop like this and then just start messing with it. So cut out some of this, make the hi-hats go lower. Sorry, I'm drinking my coffee while talking. Make the bass sound different. Cut out the bass. Cut out other instruments. Add vocals if you want. Add this reverb automation. Add any automation. Just mess with it. If you listen to something like Teen Week by Jane Remover, the original, with all the songs don't necessarily change a ton overall, like second by second, but she'll add so many little things that cut in and cut out, or reverb, or like the vocal will have a reverb throw once in the song that is never repeated. I do recommend you repeat things because that's how they get catchy. You want to repeat the same melody at least 4 times, probably much more. Just over and over again, and it'll be catchy. But just, I don't know, experiment with changing things around. I think that's the most fun part of the song making process. So hopefully this helps. I made a tutorial like this about a year or so ago, and I thought it was pretty good, but I wanted to show, I've kind of grown as a music artist, so I wanted to show a basic how-to of what I do. Obviously, there's a whole bunch in this, so I would recommend following along in your DAW, and if I go a bit too fast, you can kind of follow along and, I don't know, copy some of the notes here or figure out chords. If you're really, really committed, I would try following along but writing your own chords. I think that could sound really cool. But watch this, watch other tutorials, and just practice every day. Just try to make a beat every day, every other day, something really simple. And you can kind of ignore some of the sound design and mixing aspects of this, but I included that because if you're a month into making music, I bet this would be pretty helpful. But if you're 6 months into music, it's probably a little bit less helpful, but I wanted to include something that you could come back to that you might not have known. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I guess I have to figure out if someone's in my apartment or not, but I will figure that out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. My socials are Charlo pretty much everywhere. Charlo Official on Instagram. But I appreciate you watching this, and best of luck producing. Bye.